this pandemic situation, it is a time we have to upskill ourselves. Salesforce is the right platform for every one of us, friends. There is a slowdown, but there will be millions of jobs across the globe as expected to be created around Salesforce ecosystem within the next few years. If you are in India, there is a program called Journey to Salesforce that is for the experienced developers who wants to start their career in Salesforce. Many of you might know about the program. This program will help you guys. If you attend any Salesforce event, you can see the thank you note at the as the first. It's a kind of gratitude. Thanks to Salesforce for connecting us together. Regarding this program, it is a great effort by the team in SoftSquare. Thanks to SoftSquare for that. SoftSquare is a Salesforce Silver partner, and they are rated as one of the top 10 PDO partners of Salesforce in Dreamforce 29. Special thanks to Mr. Andy Giri, MD and CEO of SoftSquare, for giving back to the community in all the possible ways. Apart from the speakers, there is a big team working behind the scenes for this event. Mr. Vettivendan, Ram, Suresh, Anandakrishnan, Rajkumar, Purnima, Satya, Mohanapriya, Gautam, on and all others for their tireless effort for this a wonderful program. Software has recently conducted 5 days Salesforce admin program. This time they have come up with the developer program. Regarding the speakers, Mr. Mahendran, if you are connecting from the US, you might know about him. He is having over 18 plus years of IT experience with 7+ years of experience in Salesforce.com as an architect, administrator, and lead developer. He is currently working for Optum. He lives in Pennsylvania. Subhas Kumar, he is a solutions architect at SoftSquare. He has overall 15+ years of experience and is having 10+ years of Salesforce excellence, delivering several solutions related to work order processing on the Post.com platform. He has built complex solutions for the AppExchange. He is also a leading mentor and trainer. The next one is Lenas Nexon. He's a solutions architect at SoftSquare. He has 10+ years of experience in Salesforce. He is taking care of SoftSquare's Canada operations. He is a product manager of SoftSquare's AppExchange products. The next one is Mr. Manivasagam. He is a technical leader. He has around 9+ years of experience in Salesforce. He has wide experience in retail and consumer goods industry. Praveen is having 6 years experience, and Yashwant is having 5+ years of experience in Salesforce. They both are masters in building Lightning components and Lightning Web Component solutions. Regarding this program, you may post your questions at the chat window. The support team will consolidate your questions, and the team will answer your questions at the end of the session. This session will be recorded, and the URL will be shared at the SoftSquare's webinar link. Today's sessions will be covered by Subhas and Nixon. Once again, thanks to you all. Over to Subhas.
Okay, Nixon here. I'm joining from Toronto, and thanks for joining today's session. Shekhar, can you
Yeah.
stop your friend? Yeah,
Yes, yes. The
that's
next one will continue. Yeah.
yes. Thank you so much. All right. Hope you can see my screen. Able to see my screen?
Yes, yes.
All right. Okay. Thanks everyone, and thanks for the introduction, Shekhar. It saves a couple of minutes on my side. Yeah, as Shekhar mentioned, I'm Leonas Nixon Brito, working as a solution architect in software, and I have 10 plus years of experience in Salesforce ecosystem. So this is the general forward-looking statement you see in any of the Salesforce presentation, like do the purchase decision based on currently available products, and yeah, you all know that. And yeah, thanks again for the whole team who is presenting today and in future sessions, and the people who worked behind the screens a lot, a ton of hours they invested to make this happen. So thank you everyone. All right, so let's get into the subject now. So the first one is basically what is Salesforce. So if you ask me about 2011 or 12 time period, it was more like a CRM or just a sales cloud and service cloud. But when we look into 2020, Salesforce is not just a CRM, it's a complete platform or ecosystem, I would say. uh, we have sales cloud and service cloud, which is the major player, but beyond that we have tools for marketing, like for B2C we have marketing cloud, for B2B we have Pardot, and for commerce solutions we have B2B commerce and B2C commerce. And obviously the another winner in the league is a Salesforce platform. And Salesforce has analytics solutions like Tableau, Einstein Analytics. They have integration platform like MuleSoft, and for collaboration and learning they have Quip and Trailheads, and communities. We cannot forget that, because we have customer and partner communities, which is again a market leader in that industry. So, and over and above we have Einstein Everywhere as an AI, as a business intelligence tool. So uh, so in 2020, if you call or if you ask me what is Salesforce, it's a complete platform and ecosystem, and you can find all your solutions in and around Salesforce now. So we hear this term everywhere, right? SaaS, PaaS, and IaaS. So you, where do you think Salesforce fits? So let's say if I take it from the bottom, like IaaS, like solution or product like Heroku fits as an IaaS thing. Like you can build your own full stack application and host it. It is similar to Amazon Web Service or Google Cloud. If you look into platform as a service, Lightning platform, which comes with all and bells and whistles except the sales cloud, service cloud kind of applications, but you can leverage all the platform capabilities and power of the platform, like creating objects quickly, uh, do low code business rules automation, and over and beyond, extend using Apex and Lightning and Visual Force. You can do everything on the platform as a service. So that's Lightning platform. And the top one is software as a service, which is applications built on top of platform like Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, CPQ, B2B commerce. So uh, Salesforce fits into all three segment now. And this is the generic architecture diagram of Salesforce. As you can see here, it built on a solid platform. So their data, their API layers, their application automation engine, everything is uh, providing that solid base, and all the applications are built on top of that. So that is why all your sales cloud or service cloud, or even if you are building a custom app, those apps can leverage the platform features efficiently. And Salesforce has very powerful API. You will see that in future sessions. Like you can integrate with any web enabled system, and you can pull the data or push the data from Salesforce or from the external system. Even you can access all your metadata using API. So you will see all those detail in future sessions, but it is built on API and a strong platform. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, is Salesforce is just a sales and service kind of a CRM tool? It is not. We can build app for any department, and even many apps are available in App Exchange. One good example is Financial Force for finance, AdvoLogics for legal. We know Pardot and Marketing Cloud, but there are a few products like Marketo kind of thing for marketing things. Yeah, so you can find industry based solution in App Exchange, and Salesforce is also adding a lot more products over there, like consumer goods cloud, kind of industry specific products also you can find in Salesforce, and you can build your own uh, in lightning fast. So as a solution architect, if you ask me why Salesforce compared to other platforms, it is not just because I love Salesforce. It is more like what is the capability it has and how it helps business and IT team to deliver solutions, right? So the main reason, or the first and foremost thing I consider in any platform is like point and click tools or low code configurable solutions, I would say. So in Salesforce, you can configure your data model in few clicks, and you can build business rules using click-through tools or the graphical UI kind of thing. For example, Lightning Flow. And you can customize the UI, like no need to create or no need to code for just creating a record or viewing a record. All those screens are out of the box. You can control the look and feel of it. And over and beyond in Lightning, we have Lightning Page and Lightning Flow, which gives ability to customize your screen as per your business need and build custom screens using click through. So that is one real powerful feature I see. And security is one another aspect, like in Salesforce, in terms of application security or data security, everything is configurable, and it is too good at the enterprise grade. So the next one I love to say is always mobile enablement. So whichever object you create, whichever page layout you configure, everything is mobile first or instantly available in mobile. So that is one clear winner. And we can create apps and distribute in App Exchange. And yeah, it has powerful development languages like Apex Code or even Lightning components and web components nowadays. And as I mentioned earlier, you can integrate with any platform. So for today's and future session, we would like to get started with a basic story, so that we can correlate Salesforce features and all other subsequent contents accordingly. So we have a simple use case here. Like I have a client called a Tourister, who's a major tour and travel operator, and they operate in multiple offices in the country, and they operate their own vehicles, assume, and they have partners with major automobile service centers to repair their vehicles. So let's say customer walks in or call or email and reach out office staff to 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 do inquiry or create a trip. So office staff gathers all the information and they create a trip, and they fill in information like which vehicle they are assigning, or who will be the in charge to follow up this particular trip. And they go through the identifying available vehicle process, map that available driver and map it, and just based on the trip date, we can have some automations to send notifications. And when the trip is completed, we have to update where the current location of this vehicle is, like that. So this is a very simple uh, tour and travel operator company use case. So where they started, like they started as a startup, they have very few offices. So what happened is they started as an Excel sheet like this. So all they care about is like who's the customer, what is the primary customer contact information, and which office is taking this trip. And and we need the trip information, like when they are picking, when we have to pick from where, and where we have to drop, and whether it is a single way or round trip, and who's the driver and what's his information. So when they begin their business, they started with their sheet or Excel, and that serves their need. But one thing you can notice always is like this is not normalized database, so they have to repeat a lot of information every time. So as they grow, they see that as a problem because they have to repeatedly populate the information, and sometimes it is error prone because it is a manual entry thing. So they want to get started with something very simple. And they initially they have not considered about Salesforce, and they reach out a developer or architect, or and they come up with like, okay, let's build a application, and this will be your data model. Okay, so as a IT enablement team, I go and review that. Okay, this looks good because I have multiple tourist office, and one vehicle can be part of multiple office. And I hope everyone knows one too many and many too many cases here. Like one office can have multiple drivers, and one office can have multiple vehicle. uh, if you look into the trip, for a trip, it will be always one driver and one vehicle. But in the combination of driver and vehicle, we can have many to many, so we call it as junction object. So, and also in the another side of this wing, you can see one customer can have multiple trips. So this company presented a simple data model. But as a business owner, I looked into Salesforce and I want to explore, hey, I would like to understand Salesforce platform capabilities and how this fit into solution, how this fit into Salesforce, because I know Salesforce is highly scalable, and it is very reliable in terms of uptime and availability. So I would like to evaluate Salesforce. So the team goes back and start looking into Salesforce as a possible solution. So when they start exploring, this is what they found. Like, okay, in general, we call it as table, we call column, we know row, we know we build views, and we create relationship between different tables, like the relationship we have seen like between customer and trip. But in Salesforce world, they call it different. Like we call table as objects. We are calling columns as fields. We are calling each row as record. And here, no need to create or build code for each and everything. Salesforce offers out of the box list view, detail view to access those records. And here we simply call a foreign key for the relationship, but here we have more than that, like master detail and lookup. Okay, this is exciting, but the solution provider or a developer wants to learn more. So he signed up for a developer edition, and he tried to create a object model there, and he wants to visualize the information. So this is where he end up with like, okay, in Salesforce they call apps, which is nothing other than a collection of tabs. And this is the lightning UI, as you can see here, and all the available tabs for that particular app is listed on top. So again, what is tab? Tab is representing an object, and it is not limited to that, but that is the most common use case. Like when we are creating tabs, we can create it for an object or a custom page, or we can embed a web link too. But most of the objects are represented in tabs. And we have seen columns in the traditional way, but here we call it as fields. So in a list view like this, we see fields like this, and each row, which is record, is represented like here. And you can also notice a lot of list view controls here and new kind of buttons there to create records. But what happens when I click a record and open and see it? So you see the complete record detail in the screen. Like you see all fields listed for that particular record, which is all columns available in that particular table. And this is in a particular row context if we try to map it with the traditional one. And you see the related list here. So this is what we are talking about, the relationship. Like here, trip has a foreign key or a reference of vehicle, because in trip we are associating a vehicle, a driver, in charge, customer, and so on, right? So as a user, you want to visualize, or you want to see when I open up a vehicle record, what are all the trips associated. When you open up your driver record, you want to see what are all the trips associated, like that. So we call it a related list, and you can see that in the detail page. And also you see collection of actions, for example, edit, delete, and any custom action button you place, you see it in the record detail page. So two most accessed screens in Salesforce, if you ask me, it is list view and detail view. This is available for all the objects. I will talk about more on the what are all the objects available, but it is available for all the objects or all the tables we create in Salesforce. And this is zero code. So as you add new fields in the object, you can add it, and this is completely configurable. You can place the components anywhere in the screen. So let me move on to the next one, which is object. We were talking about object, right? So what is an object? It's just a table. So what's special in Salesforce, right? So in Salesforce, we in general we categorize true in very high level, but there are few more options like big objects and external objects. I'm not going to touch it for now, but in general, standard objects are objects which is included as part of Salesforce cloud offering. For example, when you sign up for a sales cloud product, you will get account, contact, lead, opportunity, and you will get products kind of objects. But when you sign up for a service cloud offering, you will get cases, entitlement, those kind of objects. Accounts and contacts are generic objects where this is or this is available in all Salesforce editions and clouds, I would say. Even in Lightning Platform edition, we have account and contact. So any object you get out of the box, we call it as standard objects. Any objects you create for your business use case is custom object. For example, for this tourister example, I have vehicle, I have trip, those kind of tables, right? So they are for my business use case, and I'm going to create them. So we call it as custom objects in this use case. So the next one is fields. So when we create object, we get three set of fields out of the box, and we can create custom fields. So we will do little more detailed view or detailed discussion on custom fields. But in terms of standard available fields, we get identity fields, which is nothing other than an ID field. So each record we create, Salesforce generates a 15 character case sensitive value or 18 character case insensitive value. So we call it as ID. So each and every record, which is each and every row you create in a table will get an ID field. And there are few system fields out of the box, which is mostly read only, like created by, created date, last modified by, last modified date, those kind of system fields. So the only exception here is like when you upload a data, like a data loader kind of process, Salesforce allows to edit these values, but other than that, it is always a read only field. And for each and every object, there is one another system field which is required always, which is name field. For example, when you create contact, in this case, Lena's Nixon Brito is a contact name, right? So that is required. When you create account, which is representing a business, so in this case, say Soft Square is an example of account. Let's say when you create a vehicle, if you give a unique reference for vehicle, like vehicle 143, or you want to call them by the registration number, then you can promote that as a name field and use it. So every record in Salesforce must have this name field. One good option is like some objects, like a junction object, there is no we cannot name them nicely, like here contact or account. So Salesforce offers auto number as an option. So Salesforce generates auto number value for each and every record, but name is required in that case too. So the custom field is like any fields we create in Salesforce, we call it custom fields. So we can create custom fields in standard objects like accounts and contacts, or we can create custom fields in our own custom object. For example, in this case, when I'm talking about trip kind of object, we were talking about the pickup location, drop location, pickup date, drop date kind of thing, right? So all those fields are custom fields we will create in Salesforce. So let's see what kind of data types Salesforce support. Again, it's a growing list. Salesforce introduces a lot of new field types too. Here we are grouping at by their nature. For example, you can see number, currency, percent, and to capture your data or timestamp, we have date and datetime field type. Uh, and for better data clarity or data validation, we have checkbox, pick list, and pick list multi-select means you know what value user has to choose. It is not like a free text kind of thing, right? So, and for more formatted text type, email, phone, URL, which enforces the format validation out of the box. And we have text and text area, which supports the next line. And we have text area long, which is equivalent to your notepad, text area rich, which is equivalent to your email composer or Word document. And yeah, we have text area encrypted too. Yeah, you can encrypt field values in Salesforce for security purpose. And we have calculated fields. I have talked about the auto number field, which we can use it in a name field. Beyond that, we can create exclusive auto number fields too in an object. And we have a formula field. Yeah, you hear it right. It's a formula like similar to Excel formula to some extent, I would say. Like you can perform basic operations on same row, or you can refer values from other sheets, right? So a formula fields has similar capabilities. We can see it in future slides. And yeah, rollup is nothing other than aggregated fields. So these are some calculated fields. uh, yeah, beyond this, there are a few more types like geolocation fields, like to store lat and long kind of values. And Salesforce has planning to introduce address fields too, like street, city, country. That is in their roadmap. Again, it's safe harbor, but I see in their one of pilot or their release notes about the address fields. So just a heads up. So it's a changing list, more like adding list, but this is on the setup screen. But if you look into the code aspect, most of them are fitting into text or string or int. So Subhash will cover those kind of supported data types later. When you see that, you can correlate Salesforce backend data types versus their programmatic data types better. So one important aspect is of the fields list we are talking is relationship fields. So in traditional approach, we create foreign keys, right? So in Salesforce, we call it as lookup and master detail, and before that, where we will create relationship fields. So it is more like one to when we have a one-to-one relationship or one-to-many relationship or many-to-many. So one good example we discuss is like uh, one customer can book for multiple trips. That is one-to-many. uh, one driver and a specific vehicle can be used in multiple trips. So this is many to many relationship where we have the junction object or many to many relationship. So based on these relationship type and its behavior, like when I'm creating a trip, what is required, right? So it is all about customer. Do I need anything more? Obviously not, because I can associate who's in charge later, which vehicle I will use in this trip. I can associate that later, and maybe which driver will part of the trip. I can map it later. So if a relationship is not required from the beginning, then typically that is a or obviously that is a lookup. And even when it is required, there are few other attributes we have considered, like uh, what kind of permission user has to has on the parent record. For example, can I take order or trip for any customer in the org or only customers I serve? So based on these kind of attributes, we will decide whether we go with lookup or master detail. But in high level, lookup is loosely coupled and master detail is tightly coupled. Like without parent, we cannot create child for master detail relationship. But for lookup, parent is always optional, or we can enforce it as required. But master detail controls record ownership, record accessibility, all those elements. So it depends based on your use cases. You choose the appropriate relationship field type. And one more thing you noticed in the previous screenshot, right? Like you see the related list. So when we create a lookup or master data relationship, it adds an related list in the screen. So in parent screen, you can see child records as a related list, if you can recall the screen. So let me move on to the next one, which is calculated fields. Again, formula fields are really powerful and very helpful, not only for admins, even for developers, to simplify a lot of calculations. And we can uh, have few business rules based value returning formula fields, which will simplify a ton of code. So I highly recommend to use formula fields as much as possible. And what is formula field? It is basically a simple calculated field. You can perform conditions, and you can also perform arithmetic uh, operations. And you can also refer parent or grandparent objects. We call it as cross object reference. For example, if you want to pull any information from customer, for example, customer email in trip record detail, no need to write code in traditional way. What we do is we simply develop a trigger to copy the value from parent to child, or we customize the UI to query the parent record and display value. Here in Salesforce, you can create a formula field in 3 clicks, and it is available right there, and you can refer that formula field in any of your programming components. And roll up summary field, again, it is available only for master detail relationship. So that is why I was talking like selecting appropriate relationship field is very, very critical. If you like to roll up few numbers from child to parent, for example, if you want to roll up number of trips to vehicle or driver, yeah, it is supposed to be master detail. But again, based on business use case, like I'm not going to assign driver or vehicle at first place. It is going to happen in somewhere later in the stage. So in that case, I cannot have that relationship as master detail. But here in customer side, I always have customer upfront. So I can establish a master data relationship between customer and trip, and I can do count, like how many records from the child object, or I can sum some values, like let's say if I'm doing miles kind of value capturing in trip, I can aggregate how many miles I have run, and average, like what is an average mile I book or I take in every trip, like that. Or I can do min and max. This can be applicable for a date field or number field, like what is my recent trip date, what is my first trip date, like that. We can do all those kind of aggregations uh, in a roll-up summary field. So few other important attributes you have to recall, like you have to understand what external ID is. Basically, it is a ID reference of external system. So this is really helpful in API and data loader context. Like we are simply saving an external reference of external systems record ID. So in Salesforce, we have ID, right? The 15 character case sensitive ID or 18 character non-case sensitive ID. So similar to that, every system has their own unique identifier. We are simply storing it in Salesforce, and in later on sessions, like when we are talking about DML operations, Subhash will touch base on how this external ID is used. So it is very important to recall what is external ID is. And unique ID is mostly used in integration context, but this is just to ensure there is no duplicate created with this particular value. This is per table or per object. So within the object, if you want to eliminate a duplicate value, then we can create a unique field, and you can also mark a unique field as case sensitive or case insensitive. So yeah, this is also really powerful and helpful in most of the general implementations. So the next one is page layout, which is a skeleton of what you see in the record detail page. So in record detail page, you have seen all the fields aligned there, and the related list added there, and buttons and actions added there, right? So basically, we configure that is in page layout. It does drag and drop control. You can customize that, and you have also control to remove fields from the page layout. For example, you might have 100 fields in the particular object, but you want to show only 50 fields because 50 some of them are not applicable to a specific user context, or some of them are system fields, like any API reference or API log kind of details you might capture. So you can decide, as an administrator or developer, you can decide what fields you want to display, and you can add sections to group fields in a nicer way. And yeah, you can assign page layouts by profile or record types. So the next one we will talk is about record types, which is more like a special pick list, I would say. So in general, pick list or drop down has values which is user can pick it, right? So drop record type is similar to, I would say, it's a special pick list in my opinion. The only difference it has is like it can control page layout and pick list values. So let's say I have, let's say I'm using contact object. And in this particular business use case, I'm talking about driver, I'm talking about in charge person, and I'm talking about customer. If you look into the big picture, all three of this particular user persona is external users or someone who will not log in into Salesforce CRM. So typically we call them as contacts. But if you look into the field kind of what fields we need for them, like 60% of fields are same, like what is their primary contact information, like email, phone number, and where they are located, what is their address. And there might be few additional attributes we might capture, like driver might has driver record might have driving license information, office in charge might have a few other unique reference IDs or a few additional attributes, and customer might have few additional information. But if you see the thing, like 60 to 70% of fields has overlap, so we will have a record type to mention like which contact type it is using record type. Like if it is customer, show a different page layout, like include all generic field and customer specific field. If it is driver contact, include all generic fields and driver specific custom fields like that. So I would say it is more like doing a partition in your office space. Like it is one single office space means one single object, but having this partition to have your generic things there, like you share the AC duct, you share the power, everything, but you have special behaviors. Like in this partition, I have this rack. In another partition, I don't have a rack. I have a table like that. So it's you can visualize like that. So hope that clarifies thing. So by considering all Salesforce standard features like objects, page layouts, record types, and standard field types, I would like to optimize my my data model like this. I would like to uh, combine a few objects, for example, driver, customer, in charge as contact. In our earlier data model, you have them as uh, different tables. And also I would like to combine my my B2B customer, which is accounts, and my office locations as accounts, because they are not Salesforce users. One of them are my extended wing, but they are not Salesforce users, so I want to capture them in account and contact. And another side, I would like to capture my all my customers information regardless of B2B and B2C. So I have simplified the data model for Salesforce standard, like eliminating a few objects, leveraging record types. Okay, hope this is clear. So I will get into the next topic called validation rule. So from here, we will talk about few business automation tools. So again, just to get set some expectation and clarity here, like this is a brief recap of standard Salesforce platform, because remaining 11 hours, we will focus on developer content. So it is very, very critical to recall what Salesforce platform offers, like in terms of data model or automating business rules. Because if you look into the MVC layer, so far you have seen the model layer of it, like you have configured the object fields, everything, and you have touched some view portion of it, like the page layout. And going forward, it is more on the controller side, like typically for what you use control, to retrieve data, and to perform some business validations, and to perform some business rules, right? So going forward, the 3 or 4 features you will see is more on the controller side of it if you put those in MVC architecture. So validation rules, it's a very simple but yet powerful tool. You can perform data validations, like you can basically check a condition and throw error. So why this is important? Like we have to ensure the data we are capturing is valid and it is a quality data. So like in general, when you create field, you can set some fields as a required fields, but what if you want to conditionally required it? Like let's say if I select field like trip type as round trip, I want to ensure there is always a drop location, for example. Or what if I want to check a condition like trip end date or drop date should not less than pickup date, because I cannot pick up in future and drop in past, right? So it is always pick up now. The drop date should be a future date of a pickup date. So what if I want to have those kind of conditions? Yep, validation rule is the way to go. As you can see here, I have a simple validation rule configured in the org. Like uh, it is like, as I mentioned, it is simple, equivalent to simple Excel formulas. Like you can have your simple conditions. Like here I'm referring drop time less than or equal to pickup time, which is if this condition satisfies, then throw error. So one thing you have to remember always is like in validation rule, we create formula for error scenarios, not for the happy path. So if this condition satisfied, throw error. That is the simple way of putting a validation rule. And one thing you have to note here is like validation rule always executes on record creation or update. We cannot fire validation rule on delete scenario. How we can handle those things will be covered later. The short answer is trigger, but Subhash will cover that later. So the next powerful business automation tool, business rule automation tool is workflow rules. We use it a lot. I'm in Salesforce ecosystem for 10 plus years now, and all 10 years I can never skip a validation rule or a workflow rule. So let's see, what is a validation rule? Sorry, what is a workflow rule? It's a simple business process automation tool to check a condition and fire a specific action. So it is not a validation kind of error throwing tool, but it is for some post processing or record update kind of action performing tool. So one thing you can see here is like, this is the simple flow of the workflow rule. Like I always check the entry criteria, like when I should fire, whether I should fire it only on record creation, or whenever the record is created or updated, or when it is created or subsequently met criteria, like when the record slipped from this condition, met it again, like that, and perform some immediate action, like right away I fire that action, or I can schedule it like okay, based on this particular date, say before 1 hour of trip end, fire this action, or after couple of hours of trip end date, fire this action, like that, a time dependent action. So it is just a 3-step process, like uh, evaluate the criteria and do the immediate action or time dependent action. So what kind of actions we perform here? Yeah, it is very simple and straightforward. Like we can fire 4 different actions here. One is tasks, which is activity. We can create tasks like, in general we create it for log a call or send an email, but here we can use like reminder kind of thing, like before 24 hours, if you want to create a task for in charge contact or the business user to say, hey, a trip begins in 24 hours, please make sure customer is still want to do that, because I don't want to have a last minute cancellation, right? So those kind of internal follow-up tasks, if you want to create, we can create them. Or if you want to send email notifications to customer or driver or in charge contact, yeah, we can do it as an immediate action or a scheduled action. In addition to that, we can also perform field update operations, like if you want to copy value from one field to another field, or if you want to do a calculation and update your field value, or if you want to update your parent field when it is in the master detail relationship, we can perform those kind of field updates. And outbound messages are a simple way of doing integrations, like it is SOAP based. We can construct XML messages and post it to a specific endpoint. uh, even now a lot of integrations happens to outbound messages, like without any code you can do simple integrations using these outbound messages features. So I have a simple screenshot of workflow rule. Like as you can see here, I have a rule name and it is active, and you can see the evaluation criteria when this is executed, like when it is created or subsequently met. Also, I have my rule criteria, like when trip status equals completed, I'm simply sending an email notification to my customer to do a simple rating on the trip, like send trip completion notification. So this is one good example of creating a simple validation rule. So the next feature we are going to see here is process builder. So again, workflow rules are for simple business rule automations, but process builder can handle little more complexity, and it supports a few additional actions. And one good thing here is, like, you have a visual interface to automate business process. You can have multi-step process, and you can group multiple actions. So that's a one great thing. And here also it supports immediate action and scheduled actions. And workflow rule does not support versioning. Like if you are changing, you are completely overriding it. There is no previous version to revert. But in process builder, it supports versioning. That means if you're doing a change and deploying it in production, if that goes wrong, in a button click you can revert to the older version, just to restore the previous one. So what is special in process builder? It can handle everything workflow rule handles except the outbound message. And here you can create record. If you recall the workflow deck, it cannot create a record, but here in process builder we can create record. It supports to update record. If you compare this with workflow supports update on same object or a parent object which is in master detail. But here in process builder, it supports any record, which means I can update a parent which is in lookup relationship too. Send an email is common. Posting to Chatter. If you are not aware of Chatter, Chatter is an internal collaboration tool which is highly used in any modern orgs. So we can post messages in Chatter. We can perform quick actions, and yeah, we can initiate approval process. Even we can launch another flow or a process builder, or we can invoke code. Like uh, this way we can perform very complex business rules, or we can do external system callouts, and it supports the rest too, right? So we can call Apex too from here. So this is a simple criteria defining screen. Like as you can see here, it is more like if else if kind of thing. Like it goes and checks the first condition and fires this immediate action, and you can define whether it has to go to next step or go to the end. So in workflow, if you have multiple workflows, you cannot control order and sequence, but here you can control the sequence of execution. And here you see the similar kind of thing, like when this should execute and what condition I have here. And in the next screen you see a simple update record action. So in this case I'm just copying a value from one field to another field, but this is not limited to this. You can perform complex formulas here, like a calculated value you can set, or you can update any parent record or grandparent record. So you have control on those things. So the next and possibly the last one from my end is Flow Builder. So if you are new to Salesforce, and if you already start reading about Salesforce, you might hear this about a lot. So Salesforce has improved this flow builder in last couple of years drastically. And I love this flow builder for various other reason, because I love its guided visual experience. I would say this is not just for admins, this is more for developers too, I would say, because when you do a program, like what do, you define the structure, you think about the pseudocode, and you put that in a right structure, right? So you can do those things in this flow builder in a guided visual way. So there are two broad types, which is auto launched flow or screen flows. Auto launched flows are more or less equal to process builder or workflow. Like when the record is changed, you can fire some actions, but it is not limited to that. You can have a custom button and click and perform some actions. So we can use that too. Or we can do scheduled actions. Like the earlier things are based on record action, you schedule certain actions, but here it is a complete scheduler kind of thing. Like you can go and configure, like every day 9 a.m. perform this action. That's it. It is not at all related to any record action. So or record triggered action. So you can do a standalone scheduler flows, or you can have screen flows, which is really used to create simple user interface. Like you can create custom form, you can create simple wizards without any code, or possibly with very minimal code. So no code or low code is key when we are doing things in flow builder. So just to give some visual experience on flow builder, you can see you have few interaction elements like screens or any specific actions we fire, and we have logic elements like we can perform assignment, decision, or loop, which is equivalent to, like, assignment is just variable assignment, decision is like your if statement kind of thing, and loop is equivalent to your for loop, right? And data is basically, you can query, you can update records, create records, which is equivalent to your SOQL and DML kind of statements. And you can see here, like uh, I was a programmer once, so I can easily interpret this. Like when I build a logic or a method or control or a trigger, whatever it is, I start with conditions. I start with uh, pull records and do conditions and then perform my business rules. So that's exactly you see here. And in addition to that, you see the screen element. So I would say as an admin, they can create flow builder, but as a developer, you can build effective and optimized flow builder. So before you build any custom components or custom coded components, I highly recommend to evaluate flow builder capabilities, and then if it does not fit there, then go with the custom development. That is what I highly recommend as a solution architect. So we are in last part of my session. Like which automation tool do I use? It's tricky most of the time because we have some overlaps between process builder, flow builder, and workflow, like field updates kind of thing. But this is very general thumb rule we follow all the time, and this is generally available in Salesforce documentation. Like if it is simple condition check and fire a statement, go with workflow. If it is multiple step if else kind of thing, but still not very complex thing, I recommend to go with process builder. If it involves various other objects and very high complex, then go with the flow builder. And there are few more advantages or comparison I have here, like flow builder supports some additional things. Like if you one simple example is like update fields, uh, approval, sorry, the workflows updates, workflow field update supports its own record or its parent record in master detail. Process builder supports the triggered record or its parent record regardless of lookup and master detail. But Flow Builder supports any record. Means no need to have a relationship. You can simply query some other object and update things. And Flow Builder is the only business automation rules which supports custom UI implementation in configurable way. You cannot achieve those things in Process Builder and Workflow. And because of the order of execution nature, Flow Builder is fast when we embed them in record triggered scenario. So I highly recommend to use Flow Builder. If not, go with Process Builder. If not, go with Workflow Rule. So this is the typical order. As a solution architect, I always recommend to implement. So yeah, we are in the last and very important slide. Thank you again. Thank you. Yes. Thanks for posing all your questions. There we know we got a lot of questions, but I will answer few in this today's session. But other sessions, other questions we will document and post it in the webinar detail page so that you can access those things. So the first question I got here is like, all fields are exposed over API interface, or do we need to configure which field can be exposed to over API for CRUD operation, which is DML operation. So we can configure things like, typically we create API profiles, and in API profile level, you can configure which standard object or which custom object you would like to expose. And even at field level, you can configure at what level you want to expose. Like security is one big topic, but you can configure like whether you want to expose this field as a read only, or you would like to get it as an update also, like read write kind of thing. So you can do that. So the second question is, are we going to learn Lightning 2 in this session? Yes, definitely. Day 4 of session covers Lightning component and Lightning Web component. So there is one more question, like difference between rule criteria and evaluation criteria. Like evaluation criteria is when this particular business rule should fire, like on creation or update, or on creation and update. But rule criteria is like, after that, what is the rule criteria you want to execute. Like in this case,